GOMAD. GOMAD stands for gallon of milk a day, which means that in this diet you will consume 1 gallon of milk a day, or roughly 3.8 liters of milk a day. It's as insane as it sounds. You could maybe even say that you will be going mad. Jokes aside, the GOMAD diet can be an awesome solution for the so-called hard gainers, who are people who find it close to impossible to gain weight/muscle. If you choose to go with whole milk, 1 gallon of milk has 2,400 calories and around 130 grams of protein. Just this 1 gallon of milk contains basically an average daily calorie intake for one person. So if you still eat more food on top of that, you are guaranteed to finally start gaining weight and muscle. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows with this type of diet. If you are lactose intolerant or if you just hate milk, this is not the type of diet for you. And even though you might not be either one of those things, you still might experience more frequent bathroom visits, if you know what I mean. And also, you might experience more acne popping up as a result of increased milk consumption. So if you want to try the GOMAD diet, I would highly recommend starting with drinking a lesser amount of milk and increasing that over time so your body can adapt to it. This way you could technically prevent or at least minimize the negative side effects. And even though the GOMAD diet is probably a no-go for most of the people, you can still take advantage of milk, just in lesser quantities, as it is still a great tool for getting in your calories. Because as we all know, liquid calories are much easier to get down. OMAD. OMAD has nothing to do with GOMAD, even though the abbreviations are almost identical. OMAD, or in other words, 1 meal a day, is an extreme type of intermittent fasting, which we will get to in a second. Because you are eating 1 meal a day, it means that other than that 1 meal, you will be fasting for the rest of the day, which, as I said, is pretty extreme. So I really need to say that I'm not a doctor, and if you have any type of eating disorder, or if you are prone to get uncontrollably swayed by your emotions, don't engage in any extreme types of diets. Healthy and well-balanced diet is always the best choice. So always talk to your doctor first before engaging in any type of unusual diet. Alright, let's continue. So when I say that you will be fasting the whole day, it really means fasting. You can basically only consume water, black coffee or tea. Any snacks are out of the question, because it would spike your insulin and take you out of the fasting state. And if you are doing the OMAD diet, you are doing it because you want the benefits of fasting. So if your will is not strong enough, this is probably not for you. OMAD is great for fat loss because you only eat 1 meal a day. And in that 1 meal, you can basically eat whatever you want and stuff your belly to the maximum, and you will most likely still lose weight, which makes it the simplest type of diet that you can do. And some people also notice more mental sharpness and clarity, which is definitely true, but it might take some time before you get to this state, because at the start of doing OMAD, you will probably be just hangry. This is all cool and dandy, but this comes at a cost, a pretty hefty one if you are someone who wants to build muscle. If you are eating just 1 meal per day, it means that you are giving your body protein just once per day, which is a problem, because as you might know, if you want to maximize the amount of muscle that you build, you want to give your body as many opportunities for muscle building as possible. That's why the daily recommended amount of meals is roughly 3 to 6 meals a day, because each time you give your body a good amount of protein, you basically give it a signal to build more muscle. Not to say that you need to eat 6 meals per day to maximize muscle growth. Generally, at least 3 meals per day will be completely fine. But when doing the OMAD diet, you will be eating just 1 meal per day, so you are sending the signal to your body to build more muscle just once per day, which makes the OMAD diet kind of bad if your goal is gaining the maximum amount of muscle each day. There are some modifications that you could do to make this diet more usable for muscle building, and we will get to that in a second when we go over intermittent fasting. Overall, I would recommend OMAD only to people who don't care about muscle building that much, and their main priority is losing weight with literally zero effort. You know, I'm saying zero effort, but you should at least make sure that in that 1 meal you are getting in a lot of protein and some healthy fats so your body can function properly. Because if you just fast all day and then in that 1 meal you just have McDonald's, I can guarantee you that you will run into some health issues. Sure, you can have McDonald's from time to time, but also pair it with some foods that have some nutritional value. Don't let it be your only source of nutrition. Intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is a type of diet where you alternate between eating and fasting periods. So yes, the OMAD diet is a type of intermittent fasting, the most extreme variation of it. But it always doesn't have to be so extreme like OMAD. And as I mentioned a second ago, there are many modifications that you can do to make intermittent fasting more tolerable, and most importantly, more functional towards muscle building. The OMAD diet was basically a 1-hour eating window and a 23-hour fasting window. But intermittent fasting has tons of different setups that you can use. One of the most popular ones is the 16-8 setup, which means that you fast for 16 hours and then eat within that 8-hour window. This setup is very beginner friendly for people who want to explore intermittent fasting and is a good stepping stone if you want to transition into more extreme fasting types like the OMAD diet. Another setup that you can do is 24, where you fast for 20 hours and then eat within the 4-hour window, which would most likely consist of eating one meal at the start of the eating window and one at the end of it. So you will be eating 2 meals per day. The best way of planning this out would be to put the first meal of the day a couple of hours before you go to the gym, and the other meal after you come back from the gym, which you should definitely be able to fit into the 24 setup. Eating 2 meals per day is so much better than just one, especially if you let those meals be your pre- and post-workout meal, because you will still get the important nutrients for your workout so that you can perform your best. But you will also be able to recover and build muscle after a workout, thanks to the post-workout meal. So to sum it all up, intermittent fasting naturally creates a calorie deficit because you eat less often. While some of the most extreme fasting methods might not be great for muscle building, if you plan out your fasting windows properly and you at least have a pre- and a post-workout meal, it will be alright. Then just make sure that those meals that you are eating are nutrient dense and not just garbage. If it fits your macros. This is exactly as it sounds. The key to this diet is focusing on hitting your macronutrient goal, so protein, carbs and healthy fats. You can calculate your macronutrient goal by using any of the macro calculators online, and once you have the goal set, your mission is to just choose the foods that will help you meet those goals, so you can quote-unquote fit whatever food you want within your macro targets, as long as it fits. Thus the diet being called if it fits your macros, which gives you a lot of freedom in your diet as you can fit in some of those forbidden foods into your diet, which sounds good at a first glance. But once you actually start doing this, you will quickly realize that eating a lot of garbage foods will not really fit into your diet, which kind of defeats the point. Plus, if you are eating random foods each day, you will have to track every single thing that you eat, which will get really tedious really quickly. And that's not even taking into account that not all foods are created equal. If you just count macronutrients and you don't care about the food quality at all, you will be cutting yourself short. You know, it's a big difference when you are getting your carbs from rice, for example, or from sugary sweets. In your calculations, it's just carbs, but in reality, these are not the same thing. And the same thing goes for protein. You simply can't value an animal protein source the same way you value some kind of plant-based source. Because once again, these things are just protein on paper, but the amount of protein your body can actually utilize to build muscle is very different. And lastly, the constant overemphasis of counting and tracking everything can lead some people to developing eating disorders or just overall a negative relationship with food. The if it fits your macros diet can for sure work, but it requires some knowledge of food so that you don't end up with a diet full of low quality foods. Because sometimes the fact that it checks out on paper doesn't mean that it also checks out in real life. Carnivore diet. Carnivore diet is an extremely restrictive type of diet, which is all about eating only animal-based foods, which means that you get no fruits, no veggies, no grains, no legumes, nothing. That's why it's often called the zero-carb diet, because all the animal-based foods have very few to no carbohydrates at all, as animal products are very high in protein and fat. A lot of people will find it great for weight loss, just because the high amount of protein and fat will keep you satiated for a longer time. Plus, it's overall a lot more difficult to get in enough calories while you are on the carnivore diet. But on the other hand, because the carnivore diet basically eliminates carbs, you might experience a decreased performance in your workout, as carbs are the body's primary fuel. And you will also have to supplement your diet with vitamin C, magnesium, some kind of fiber supplement, and many other things, because all of these things are pretty hard to obtain on a carnivore diet. And of course, the carnivore diet can get really expensive, because if the only thing you are eating is animal-based products, you should really make sure that they are of the highest quality. Keto diet. Keto diet is all about keeping carbs as low as possible to put your body in the state of ketosis. In this state, your body switches from using carbohydrates as a primary source of energy to using fat instead, which sounds like some magical way of burning fat, but don't get fooled. In every type of diet, you will still rely on calories in and calories out. So in other words, if you are in a calorie deficit, you will lose weight. If you are not, then you will not lose weight. Simple as that. While the keto diet can for sure work, you will probably feel pretty terrible until you get used to having no carbs. And especially your workout performance is going to take a dip, because as with the carnivore diet, no carbs means no fuel. Paleo diet. The paleo diet is what you would call a caveman diet, as it is based on eating foods that our ancient ancestors would have eaten before farming and processed foods existed. It focuses on whole, natural foods and avoids anything that wasn't available in the Paleolithic era, thus the name Paleo diet. So the foods that you can eat on the Paleo diet are, for example, meat, eggs and different types of fruits, veggies, nuts and seeds. Basically just the food you could get your hands on in the middle of some ancient forest, I guess. But the foods that you should avoid on this diet are the ones that have been somehow processed or are a result of farming. So for example, grains like bread, pasta or even rice. And even dairy like milk or cheese. And of course heavily processed garbage foods. Because I'm pretty sure that the caveman didn't have McDonald's. At least I think so. Overall, I would say that rather than doing the paleo diet for some reason and eliminating stuff like rice, pasta or dairy for no reason, your takeaway should be that the age we are living in makes us focus too much on heavily processed foods, and that it would be cool to try eating more foods that haven't been artificially modified a whole bunch. I think that would make our ancestors way happier than trying to eat like a caveman just for the sake of it. Vegetarian diet. Vegetarian diet is a diet which excludes basically any type of meat, but other animal-based products like eggs or dairy are allowed. Which actually makes this diet possible, as it is not that difficult to remain healthy thanks to the inclusion of eggs and dairy. It might require some additional supplementation, especially with omega-3 fatty acids, as they are almost exclusively present only in fatty fish, which vegetarians obviously cannot consume. You could try to solve that by consuming flax seeds, chia seeds or walnuts, but that is most likely off the table, just because the values are way too low and you would have to consume a lot of these foods to sufficiently supplement all the necessary omega-3s. And at that point, just take an omega-3 supplement and call it a day. So after all, the vegetarian diet is not that bad, which could not be said for the next type of diet. Vegan diet. The vegan diet eliminates all the animal products, so no meat, no eggs, no dairy and not even honey. It entirely focuses on plant-based foods. And as you might know, plant-based foods are notoriously known for being very low-quality protein sources. So actually being a vegan bodybuilder is really difficult. It's like playing a game on a hardcore difficulty while being permanently on 1 HP. Oh, and also your monitor is turned off. But the fact that it's difficult doesn't mean that it's impossible. But to execute this properly, it's truly a challenge. Yes, the protein from plant-based sources is generally of the lower quality. And it's of lower quality because it doesn't contain all the necessary amino acids, so your body cannot fully utilize all of the protein amount you give it, simply because the proteins are incomplete. But thankfully this can be solved by eating a wide variety of plant-based foods. Because some plant-based foods are richer in one amino acids than the other ones, meaning that when you consume a wide variety of plant-based proteins, all of the amino acids will combine to create a more complete protein that your body can actually fully utilize to build muscle. This is the only saving grace for vegans, but as I said, it requires a ton of effort and preparation. Life is just so much easier if you are not a vegan, that's just a fact. And of course, you will once again have to supplement with a lot of things you simply cannot get from your diet. What you should take away from this video is that the best type of diet will always be the one that your body feels good on. If you put yourself through some arbitrary dietary restriction for absolutely no reason, it's kind of weird, no? You should consume the foods that your body responds to the best and the ones that will create a balanced diet, so you don't end up in a situation where you have to supplement with 37 different things to stay healthy. Simply put, the only thing that you should restrict yourself of are the foods that make you feel bad or that cause you some health troubles every time you eat them. These are the only restrictions that make sense. For example, if some specific type of meat makes you feel sick, just eliminate it from your diet because it makes sense. Instead, focus on the type of meat or food in general that you digest well and that you enjoy. In my opinion, any type of artificial dietary restriction is a bad idea. If you have a personal, religious or a health-focused reason, that's completely fine. But imposing some kind of dietary restriction on yourself just because you saw it in a magazine where it said that it's the best way of burning fat is absolutely ridiculous. Well-balanced diet with wide variety of foods will always be the best choice no matter what. And if you would like a helping hand in creating your own meal plan for either bulking, cutting or just maintaining, I would highly recommend you check out my nutrition guides. These nutrition guides will walk you through the whole meal plan creating process step by step. And because it's not a one-size-fits-all pre-written meal plan, you can actually build your meal plan with foods that you like and that you enjoy, so that you can have the perfect meal plan according to your dietary preferences, no matter what they are, so it will work for everybody. You can check it out in the first link in the description. Thank you for watching, and please consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Thank you. Well, if you made it all the way here, you also need to check out this video right here.